Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I never get back. So please root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes around in the old ball game. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I never get back. So please root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes around in the old ball game. Play ball.
Yeah. We'll start with Mr. Junior McBride, and if you just give us a minute, introduce yourselves, tell us quickly who you are.
Well, Junior McBride, I'm probably the oldest one here. I'm the only one that never saw a ball game played in the old ballpark before it was turned around back in the 27, 28. I was born in 1916. I'd like y'all, if anybody here remember, when we used to play baseball, when people were out, you let your glove lay on the field. They stopped that. What year did they stop bringing the ball glove in the field? Do you remember that? I've had this question asked many
It was
times.
somewhere from the
I don't know the
end
answer.
of 48, 49
Somewhere in
to
the
early
40s.
50.
But I've seen just about every ball player that played in the ballpark. Old Sulphur-Dale, I've seen Jack Dempsey referee a fight, and I've seen stock car racing and dog racing, just about everything you can see. So I enjoy being here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bunch, Sidney Bunch, how about standing and tell us who you are? Quick.
Sidney Bunch from the Birmingham Black Barons, the Baltimore Eli Giants.
All right.
Then my greatest ambition, I broke segregation. When they sent me out on the West Coast to Montana, the little boys had never seen a black man. They rubbed my skin and said, "When you gonna be my color?" But I kept hitting that ball, and they finally loved me. But I had to go around the back to get something to eat. I couldn't dress with them. I had to stay by myself.
Okay. That's I think you were in the Dodgers organization playing in Billings, Montana.
That's right.
Okay. Mr. Taylor, Larry Taylor?
I'm Larry Taylor and played with the Vols from 1955 to the middle of 58. And Bill Stinnett reminded me, he said I was really famous because I was the only second baseman that ever ran out and backed up the right fielder. I hadn't thought about that, Bill.
Okay. Mr. Nipper, Skip Nipper?
My name's Skip Nipper. I'm a Nashvilleian. 2 years ago, right in this 2-week period here, my dad and I attended with my son Doug, who's here, our first baseball game at Wrigley Field. And on our way home, my dad started giving me all the information about playing at Sulphur-Dale, hitting a home run there, and got to looking on the internet and found there was not much information there regarding the old Nashville Vols, some of the Negro League teams that played in Nashville, and especially about Sulphur-Dale. So I just took it upon myself to develop a website. And so that's why I'm here, because I'm honored to be here with these fellas. This is where the story is.
Clinton McCord, Butch McCord?
Well, this Metro Archives, well, I'm not archives anything you want to know, because it seems like everything, I get telephone calls. Do you know this? Do you know this ball player? Do you know this? But my name is Clint Butch McCord. I don't have enough time to tell you all my experiences. I don't have enough time to tell you my Negro League experiences. I don't have enough time to tell you when I got in organized ball. But you just have to give me a call or something. Maybe I can tell you all about it. And I'm the backup for all the black kids that's playing baseball. Most people around thinks that it's too expensive for black kids, but it's more than one thing. It was the white flight from the inner cities, they let the inner cities go, and you cannot play a sport if you're not exposed to it. And Michael Jordan came along about the time when TSU stopped playing at Hadley Park, and they closed Hadley Park down, and that was one of the reasons you don't see black kids playing. When they get to high school, they don't see nobody there but black kids but on the white team, on the baseball team. So they play all their friends on the basketball and football, and so there's no more. They don't want to go through Jackie Robinson again. But this panel, maybe I can bring out a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Miss Becky Murray Clayton.
I'm Becky Clayton, and my connection with all this is the fact that my father was Ted Murray, and he was owner of the Vols from 41 to 54, 55. Baseball was just part of our lives. I can tell you things about Sulphurdale you never dreamt about. And all of it was a great experience. And we were lucky, Nashville was lucky to have the Nashville Vols.
Okay. Mr. Pardue, Roy Pardue.
I came here first in 1952, right out of high school, and I played with Nashville for 1 month. They sent me to Sioux City, Iowa. Then I came back in 55, where I met Larry Taylor was in the service. He was at Fort Jackson, and I was. We played on the ball club. But like Billy said a while ago, that's the only ballpark I ever seen where a second baseman had to field fly balls to the outfield. He went out, and when the guy come by him, the second baseman had to catch it. So they played that ball pretty good. Thank you.
All right. Jim Sapp.
I'm Jim Zapp. I was born and raised at the farthest end of North Nashville, at the end of 4th Avenue North. And we didn't have any baseball teams on that side of town. All the sandlot teams was on the south side. So my mother never let me go back to play baseball. So I didn't start playing until I went to the Navy in World War II. I was 18 years old at that time. And I ended up playing with Eli Johnson in 1945 and played in the Negro Leagues, also with the Birmingham Black Brahmas, which was my favorite team. I had quit the Negro Leagues because I had gotten disgusted. And a good friend of mine introduced me to integrated baseball, Butch McCord. If it don't be for Butch McCord, I don't know what would happen in my life. It really changed my life. I feel like crying. But I always loved baseball, but there's so much difference in integrated baseball and the old Negro Leagues. The farthest trips that we made in integrated baseball were 200 miles. We used to play 3 or 4 games there in Missouri. Then you go to Decatur, about 70, 80 miles away, play 3 or 4 more games there. It's all short trips. But in the old Negro Leagues, you may play in New Orleans Saturday night and play a doubleheader in New York on Sunday. So there's a lot of difference in integrated baseball than was in Negro Leagues.
Okay. Bill Trauber.
Hi, I'm somewhat of a historian. I've been researching Nashville sports histories and writing for several years, and baseball has been a passion to me, and I spend just countless hours going through the old archives downtown, the library, the old newspaper articles, and just found some fascinating stuff, and I'm hoping I can tell y'all about some early Nashville baseball history that I found, and I was too young to have known Sulphurdale.
Well, you can see that we have a ton of rich information here from the panel members. Ms. Clayton, what was it like being the daughter of a baseball owner,
Well,
especially minor league owner? And you can stand if you like for a minute.
okay, all right. It was great. It was just wonderful because I was lucky enough to have the run of the ballpark. Being a young girl, there was never any fear of it, capture, kidnap, or anything like that. It was a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I could go anywhere in the ballpark I wanted to go except to the men's locker room or to the dugout. That was a no-no, absolutely. They The ballpark was designed with that awful right field hill that all of them dreaded to get here to have to play it. They did it well. To get to the sports section of the ballpark, you walked up a huge catwalk. Scariest thing I've ever done. Thought I'd probably be in heaven when I got up there. And there was the press box. There were 4 seats for the writers and 4 seats for us. We learned to dodge the fly balls, all the balls that came up there. I mean, I had a good sense of direction of which way to go. I also remember popcorn was 10 cents a box. Let's see, Eskimo pies, 25 cents. Cokes were a dime. And all of the men that were in service, men or women, were admitted free at any time. And it was just a wonderful part of my life that I'll never forget.
Okay, thank you. Butch McCord, you grew up in East Nashville, down around where the Titan Stadium is now, I think.
I was on the plantation.
All right.
I grew up on the plantation.
Did
I
you-
was a kid.
Did you ever make it over to the Suffolk Delta Sea games? And tell us some about Wilson Park. Did you go over there and would you explain to the audience what Wilson Park is? Some of our audience may not know.
Well, we had a great man here named Tom Wilson. He came from Atlanta here and with the Nashville Eli Giants. And he was the president of that league. And most people don't know that when they decided to move to Cleveland, Satchel Paige was playing with Nashville Eli Giants. But when they came back, they decided to play in Tom Wilson Park. Now, Tom Wilson continued to live here all through the time that when they moved the team and left the team. And we were one of the few ball owners that owned the ballpark. And that was Nashville Eli Giant, Tom Wilson Park, and there's a historical marker in front of Johnson Elementary School known as Cameron Alternative School right now. And anybody go by, you can stop and read it, because he not only did a favor for us, he built, when they tore the Tom Wilson Park down, he built the Paradise Ballroom. And the Paradise Ballroom was a place for all the big bands. Lionel Hampton, all of them came in here and played for the high school dancers or the college dancers or anybody. And it was the first place that black kids could roller skate indoors. You all had the Hippodrome where they went to roller skate, but that was the first place we could roller skate in time. And then after he left here, he went to Columbus, Ohio, and moved from Columbus, Ohio to Washington, D.C., and then ended up in Baltimore, which became the Baltimore Eli Giants. He never did leave out Eli Giants. And when he went to Baltimore, he had another black-owned ballpark. And I'll discuss the Negro League a little bit about the problems we had, but if you realize it, there's no other league that it was formed like the Negro League. It was divided into 3 things. At first it was the American and National League. Then they changed it to East and West. Now the teams out east very seldom got to play in Suffolk Dale because they didn't have to come. It was a different situation. I think we made one trip when I was with Baltimore and South and West. And most of the teams in the Negro League were owned by number backers. But there were 2, well, where else are you going to have any money? No other places that the blacks could have money. But there were 2 people that wasn't number backers. That was Dr. Martin in Memphis, which he had the Memphis Red Sox, and Dr. Martin in Chicago, who had the Chicago American Giants, where Rube Foster formed the team in 1920. But most of you all don't know that blacks played with white teams from 1872 to 1900. And the first one was Bud Fowler. And he played with the minor league. Then 1884 came Fleetwood Walker. And he was the first to play in the major league, but it wasn't known as the major league. It was known as the American Association. And I happened to play with two cities, Louisville and Richmond, that tried to run him out of baseball. They told him, if you come in there, I'm going to hang you. That's true. I mean, you can laugh if you want, but that's the way it was. And it's something else that, again, and what was funny was having at this interview that we had the other night. I met your director of education, Mr. Garcia. And I was just teasing, we shaking his hand, and I said, ¿Habla usted español? He looked at me. And then he said, ¿Y usted? I said, muy bien, gracias. And then I went on to tell him that I played in Cuba when Castro was still in the hills. Batista was the president. The Havana Sugar Kings had a team in the National League. And he knew Ray Noble, the one that went up to the New York Giants to catch the knuckleball off Wilhelm. And he knew, and he said, the Sugar King, you know I'm crazy. I said, well, you know something else besides education, and then I'll stop right there.
Mr. Pardue and Mr. Taylor, you all played in the Sufferdale. People say it's one of the greatest parks, greatest and craziest right fields. What was it like playing in the Sufferdale, and how much money did you all make? Did you make a lot of money back then?
The money was low.
We ashamed to tell you.
Yeah, we don't have to tell that. But I will say this, we played with a guy by the name of Spec Paget who signed on the AAA level, and I seen his contract the first year that he played, I believe it was Minneapolis or one of those ball clubs. He made $175 a month. But now this was back in the late 40s.
That was good money then.
Yeah, it was good money because everybody was working for maybe $10 a week at that time. So, $175 was good money. But speaking of the Dale, you couldn't look at that right field fence. When you come out of the locker room down there, you came right around and don't even look at that fence. Because if you do, right away you're gonna start, and you don't have to worry. A guy like myself, I pitched in that ballpark and I didn't have to worry about that fence. Because the only time that anybody hit that fence was when you fooled them real good, and I didn't fool anybody. So,
That's from a pitcher's perspective.
Mr. Taylor?
I'm Jim.
I mean, the hitter came out and looked at it and said, my goodness, that's a pretty fence, But no, and I say, Roy wouldn't think so, because he's a pitcher. But the Dell was a wonderful place. Now, we always had a beautiful place to play ball. And an infielder, when I say beautiful, it means you got good ground balls. They wasn't bouncing all over, hitting rocks or whatnot. The infield was wonderful. And pitchers had to be a little careful about pitcher developed a little control by pitching in the Dale. If you didn't last but 2 or 3 innings, if that long. So it was a wonderful place. Junie McBride has got I was asking him the other night when we were going down to Channel 5 about the Dale. I always wondered how they dug it out, because it was lower by 4 or 5 feet at least in a lot of places. And Junie said that used to be the bottoms, and all the other places around the Dale had been filled in, and they never filled in the Dale, and that's the reason it was low.
Okay, Mr.
Let me ask you, were you working with the Giants then?
Yeah.
Do Nashville really realize what happened? Let me tell you something. Willie Mays went to Trenton. The next step would have been AA. Southern Association wouldn't have. He would have been playing in Nashville if he'd been integrated. Frank Robinson would have been playing that when he was working with Cincinnati. That's right. But that was the benefit of them. Willie Mays missed AA ball and went to Minneapolis, and you know the rest. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, Larry and myself, we played against Mays in the Army. Fort Eustis. He's at Fort Eustis.
Well,
for
we,
2 years.
We walked him every time he came up.
Oh, hey, well, he wouldn't
Right,
pitch
we
to
did,
us.
we intentionally walked him.
Now y'all laughing, but that sounds like somebody else I know right now, Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
Y'all
And,
walk him every time he come up.
Let me go from that point to Mrs. Zapp. Mrs. Zapp and Willie Mays are
You were talking about Willie Mays,
good friends. Go ahead and tell us.
you were talking about Willie Mays. But we're still good friends. We still stay in contact. But I played with him when he was 17, when he first joined the Black Barons. And I saw him in Arizona this past spring training. I got an automobile from him. A Lincoln Town Car, 93. Lincoln Town Car, it was 44,000 miles. So we're sitting out there in the parking lot now. But at that time, Mays was 17. Wasn't too much of a hitter, but you never saw anything like it. Was arm and fielding. As long as the fly ball was staying there, Mays would go get it. And we called him Buck during that time. And he just laughed and laughed. He laughed all the time. But anyway, we're still good friends. We played on the championship team that year, 1948. During that time, we had a split season. Kansas City Monarchs won the first half, we won the second half, so we had to have a best 4 out of 7 series against them. So we beat them 2 straight in Birmingham and beat them the third game in Memphis. I came up in the 9th inning with 1 man on and beat Kansas City 3-2, hit a home run. And they took us to Kansas City and they won 3 straight. And we beat them in the 7th game for the championship. But Mays was the most exciting ball player that I'd ever seen. At that time, he wasn't the best ball player I'd ever seen. Because at that time, I thought the best ball players in the Negro League was Piper Davis and Hank Thompson. But Mays turned out to be, I think, the best all-around ball player who ever lived.
Mrs. Zapp, you were a great fastball hitter, I understand. Didn't you also play some with Charlie Pride?
In 54 a little bit. Oh, when I was young, you just couldn't shoot a fastball by me. They showed it to me, but our pitch was a curveball. Even some of you old timers remember Sam Jones, called him Toothpick Sam Jones. Mm-hmm. He could throw hard and had a good curveball, but he just showed me his fastball. The most trouble I ever had with a fastball was Satchel. Hank Thompson, who played third base for the Giants around in the early 50s, I asked Hank one time, is there any pitchers in the major league throwing harder than Satchel? He said, yeah, they're throwing it hard, but the ball don't look as small.
All right. Mr. McBride, the Silverdale also got the nickname the Dump. So, and I understand it flooded some down there. Were you there at any time? Did you ever see the flood? And did some of the Silverdale players, the ball players, ever go to Wilson Park and play?
Right. I'm probably the only man in this room that played a ball game at Wilson Park. Willie White used to be the national trainer. They had a picnic out there one day and they needed a ball game, so Willie gathered just a bunch of us and we go out and we play at the Wilson Park. And Butch asked me, said, who won the game? I said, I don't know, we didn't lose too many. But anyway, I'd like to talk about the old Silverdale. The Dale was built back in 1800 something, hole. Between 5th and 6th and 6th and 7th, those blocks were nothing but a big hole. The city filled them in. 1927, Mr. Lucas bought the lot for $500 from 5th to 6th from Jackson to the railroad spur. He built a coal company there. And they turned the Silverdale around. I always heard this was a theory. Most ballparks, the sun sets behind the grandstand. Right field is the sun field. The old Silverdale was just the opposite. The people in the grandstand, the sun was bearing right down on them all the time. The players sat in the sun. There was not one parking place. Old Bellevue School was behind left field. And the Atlantic Ice Flow, there was not one place to park a car. When they reversed it, they had a whole lot to park 500 cars. There'd be Casty Coal Company could park 300 or 400. And
Couldn't park the whole
H.E. Farmer. So that was my theory why they turned it around, and I think that was it. But when they filled that hole in, they got some lava ash from a gas company somewhere, and it's about that deep, and they crystallized over that ground. It was so smooth you could roll a marble over it. And rain, and Silverdale was underwater, spring training. Cleveland come through here one year, Bob Fellon, Earl Avon. They worked out on that old Lucas lot. They went over and they did running and throwing. They couldn't hit but take infield and everything. I've seen that lot. Sulphurdale used to flood in the spring until they built Percy Priest Dam. Then they controlled the water. But the reason that wasn't filled in, it was already a ballpark. When they filled the rest of them in, it was already a ballpark. And I understand that Chris Clark had a program. They say there's a 10-foot cylinder, brick cylinder, from Sulphurdale to the river. They found that. And one day they're going to open that back up and make a nature trail through there. I don't know that. That's what Chris Clark said.
All right.
But I've seen a whole lot of history in that old ballpark there.
Okay. Speaking of history, Mr. Trauber, who are some of the top baseball players who played at either Sulphurdale or who played in Wilson Park? From your
Babe Ruth several times. I've been when he came to Nashville. Walter Johnson, Ty Cobb. Frank Robinson's hit a home runs out there. Jackie Robinson. Because what happened in they would be training down in the South. Texas was a nice place for training, and later on it was Florida. And when they would come up north, start the baseball season, they'd travel by train, and they would stop off at the cities, Birmingham, Nashville, then from Nashville to Louisville or Chattanooga, and they'd come here and start playing, and that's how. And then they would play each other. They would play the Vols mostly, and but they've been playing since the 1800s. The famous Baltimore Orioles, the minor league team of the 1890s, they played over here at Sulphurdale. And Vanderbilt had a team. They played Vanderbilt and the New York Giants in the early 1900s. So I was also curious. If I see a baseball story, I'll try to see if there's a Nashville connection. Like, in the Field of Dreams, the ball player that, what was the guy's name? The guy that had the one hit. Moonlight Graham, that's it. All right, I looked that up, and he's a real player. He actually had one at bat, no hits, and I looked him up, and he was with the New York Giants. I believe it was in 1904, and I looked it up, and in 1904 the New York Giants came to Nashville, but I didn't see his name in the in the lineup. I thought I had a story there. So that's just everybody, just like I said, Walter Johnson. I saw where he pitched over there, and Ted Williams played there later on. The Yankees, just, and it was every year too.
I was reading in the book before I came here this morning. There's this book. I was trying to do a little homework, but it's a book called Green Cathedrals. And Tom Wilson Park is mentioned in it, as well as the Sulphurdale. It said Casey Stengel also played there, and he describes playing there and getting a hit or what it was like. Mr. Nipper, you started a website, sulphurdale.com. Why is it important to keep such history known? Is it important? Why?
Absolutely, it's
and do
important.
You get many hits on it?
Get several hits. I get an awful lot of emails from people outside of the Nashville area as well that have moved on or that remember their stories that their fathers or their grandfathers have told. But the reason, look here and see how willing these folks are to share. There's still a passion that goes here. Sydney felt, we felt that from Sydney and Jim and all these folks today. And if we don't provide some kind of an opportunity, it's going to be lost. And that would be a tragedy. It's one of the nice things about the archives here. These folks have been just terrific to help me look up information, as I'm sure they have been with Bill, to try to keep that alive. We don't want that lost. It's too valuable.
Okay. Mr. Bunch, you were a star football player at Pearl High School.
Yeah, I was captain of the only high school.
How did you get signed by the Dodgers at age 16?
Oh, well, we were playing in Birmingham. And I had
with the
4 for
Blackberries?
4, yeah, 4 for 4 that night.
But how old were you when you started playing for the Blackberries?
16.
16?
Well, started in the dressing room after the game. Mr. Kimbrough come back and said, Bunch? I said, yes.
It was Henry Kimbrough.
Yes,
who
he's
died a few years
passed,
ago.
yeah. He says, 2 white fellows here looking for you. Well, back then, white fellows looking for a black man, the police. So I said, no, I didn't even finish showering. I just So I come on out and got dressed, and they met me and told me who it was. Scouters from the Brooklyn Dodgers. Oh man, I got a weak in my knee. Never been on an airplane in my life. They said we're gonna leave. Buzz T was a little White House out there then. Buzz T Airport at 2:30 Sunday. You be ready. I was scared to death. The little plane went to shaking, the wings, I looked out. Anyhow, we go on. When they get out there, they meet me. Oh, they had a big parade and thing. And so, the catcher, Charlie Hall, I'll never forget it. And the third baseman. They say, anywhere you eat, Sid, we gonna eat. I couldn't go in the front door, I had to go around, but they go with it. Anyhow, I ordered some chitlin, spaghetti, and slaw. And they ordered some chitlin, spaghetti. Give us what Sid got. So one of them sitting there, I looked, what's the matter, Charlie? He said, when do you swallow? He kept chewing. Yeah, he kept on chewing. But there's one thing I can say about the stuff there y'all left off. The backwater did get up in there, but when the water go back, them big fish, we used to catch them with our hands. That's the only time we get good meals. Our grandmother could make salmon out of them. Yeah, but most people throw them away, you know. That's a good eating at car. Never have no counsel.
Mike Eagle. So, Mike Eagle, what question do you have for the panel? Mike is a big baseball fan, a lawyer here.
I've never been a player. I've always been a watcher. And so I am just amazingly intrigued by the stories people have of games. And that's one of the reasons I sit over beside Bush at the Sounds games and listen to his analysis of the game. I can't see the game the way he can see the game, or I suspect other people can. And that's something I'm interested in as a pure fan, being able to see and understand the game with the eyes that you guys got.
So your question is?
My question is, how do you do that?
Butch, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad I didn't start baseball now. I can't hardly sit in the stands now, because baseball, I go to Grill Stadium, I sit there, and people, as soon as they get it, it's an entertainment. They're not really. As soon as they get there, they got to go to the concessions. And it'll be the same people, up and down and stuff. And when the old fans was getting on, call the ball right. What's wrong with you? You don't hear that out there. And it's hard on me, because I want to get in the ball game mentally with him and see if I can match wits with the manager, what he gonna do. And he always do something that I don't do. He had a man on first and second out there, and one run behind and didn't bunt and let the man hit and double play. I said, Lord have mercy.
Okay. All right. Mr. Pardue, you want to help answer Mike's question?
Well, what was the question? I was listening to him.
How do you
know the game?
from your perspective, of ball player, develop the eye and the insight of the game that those of us who are just fans don't have?
Well, I think most of it goes when you start out, who you play for. I mean, we've got a lot of amateur coaches in here, and these guys, they go over the fundamentals of what you should do. That's just like I played for a guy out there in North Nashville by the name of Tom Page. And we always went over, you bunt with a man on, like Butch said a while ago. You get two men on, you push them at second and third. I guess really the only silly thing that I ever did in my life, all the time I played baseball, was out at Coleman Park. And I'm left-handed, folks. I'm a left-handed guy. Well, this manager for the other team we were playing kept saying, hey, Pardue, throw me the ball. And I had bases loaded. I'd walk three guys. He'd say, hey, throw me the ball. So what I did, I come up and I took my stretch and I turned and I threw the ball at him at third base in the coaching box, and all three runs scored. So, but go back to his question, I think the biggest part of it, would be when you're coming along, these people, now like Junior McBride, he's got a couple of guys George Archie, Pinhead Link, and all those guys, hey, they dedicate their life to stuff like that. This guy, he knows it. Butch knows it. He's been through it. They're not saying, well, so-and-so said this. There's Billy Sned, Farrell Owens, all these guys. They have taught it to kids when you had to teach them what to do, game situations, and this sort of thing. So I think that's where they get most of it, you know.
Miss Clayton, let me ask Miss Clayton this. What was it like when the Sufferdale was torn down? Being the daughter of a,
Well, it was
what's the owner of the?
very emotional, very sad, very sad. I think they turned it into a car dealership. It just wasn't, it just hurt. It hurt. Because it had been such a wonderful place and such a hub of activity for sportsmen and everybody to go and sit out in the heat and see a doubleheader. I mean, that was big time. And it was good. You weren't too hot. If you did, you had one of those wonderful fans and you just fanned. But it was it was sad, very sad.
For the ball players, if we could start with Mrs. Zapp, what was your greatest moment in baseball?
For me,
Uh-huh.
I want to tell one other thing about Roy and Butch. You know, he was talking about he threw the ball to third base. After World War II, old ball players had a saying, 5,000 left-handers went to war and 5,000 came back.
All of them were left-handed.
These are left-handers, you know.
What was your greatest moment as a player, and what was your biggest disappointment?
My greatest thrill in baseball was when I hit the home run against the Kansas City Monarchs in the 1948 playoffs. My biggest disappointment when I quit baseball. I quit baseball at 31 years old. I was playing in the big state league with Port Arthur, Texas. Jim Kirby and I was on the same team. At the end of the season, the Cleveland Indians bought the Port Arthur team, and they released everybody but me and Jim Kirby. But they wanted to lower my contract. So I had a chance to go to work for the Air Force. So I quit baseball at 31 years old, which I should have kept on going. And I went to work for civil service. But I've been blessed by quitting baseball, because now I have a civil service retirement, and I'm getting a little retirement from Major League Baseball. So life has been good to me.
Okay. Mr. Pardue?
Well, I hurt my shoulder. I was with Havana. Butch was talking about Cuba. I was with Havana in 1957. We went to down at Yucatan, Mexico for spring training. And everything was going real good, you know. And it ended up some way. I pitched, 3 nights before I hurt my arm, I threw 5 innings. And I was throwing the ball real good. And so Nap Rays was the manager. He came out and he said, what about coming out of the ball game? He said, I might need you later on in relief this week. I said, okay, good, you're the manager. Tell me what you want. So I went on upstairs, took a shower. But anyway, 3 nights later, he called me in relief. I went down and loosened up. And when I did, the first pitch I threw it big right-hand hitter, threw it right by the guy. The next pitch I threw, skipped it between the pitcher's mound and home plate. You've heard a sheet tear. It seemed like something in my shoulder. Of course, they didn't know what a rotor cuff, all that stuff was back in them days. And from then on, I could throw a fastball pretty good, but I couldn't get up on that curveball real good. Every time I got my arm out here, it seemed like I was having pains up the top of my head. And July the 4th of 1957, I sat down there to Dale, and I'd only thrown batting practice, soft tossed the ball to the catchers, and I set through a doubleheader. We lost a doubleheader, and I couldn't go in the ball game. I was just a guy sitting out there taking up space. So I went in the next day, July the 5th, and I told Bill McCarthy, I said, Bill, it's all over. I've come down here to get my stuff. He said, you can't do that. I said, yeah, I can. I said, I can't sit on that bench and not throw, Bill. So that was like, I'm like him, the biggest moment that I can think of, and it hurt me most, is when I had to give up something that I love so well, like I did baseball. We loved the game back in those days. I mean, because we was playing for nothing, you know.
All right, Butch, your greatest moment in baseball and your biggest disappointment?
I got too many, man.
For this
I'm
occasion.
gonna give it to you. The greatest thrill when I married that lady back there in 1951. That's Miss McCord. She can stand up so y'all can see her. But everybody can see her because she's a flying buttermilk almost. The reason I say that is because a lot of teams that I played with, I was flying buttermilk, if you understand what I'm saying. You got respect in that. See, I was the only one. And you had nobody to talk to. So my first year in organized ball, I almost won the Triple Crown. I hit 363. I missed everything but the RBI. I mean, I tied for home runs and I tied for, the guy beat me out of RBI. But I hit 363. And I went to the Braves minor league thing. And at that time, the minimum salary in the major league was $6,000. And I went to spring training and they didn't take me because Paris was asking $6,000 from me. So they sent me back to Paris. So I said, I got to get out. I always thought if you did good, but that ain't the way it was. So I hit 392. I almost, and Mr. Zapp over there broke, when he was talking about I got him, man. He still holds the record of RBIs, 130 in that league. But I told him he owed me half of it because every time he hit an RBI, I was on base. But after I hit that 392, that first year, they gave me the most popular player, and Tia ran out of this side. The next year, they didn't want to give me the popular player, most popular player. They gave me a night, and Harry Carey came down for my night in Paris, Illinois. And tears come out of both eyes. And that's the way I moved. I had got out of the league and I went to Denver. Went to Denver and they had a big first baseman. I had to divide with him, and I thought, sure, well, the next year I would get a break. And that's the reason I don't like Pittsburgh now, what they did to me. I went to spring training. They had 5 first basemen down there. And they didn't know what to do with me. So when they left camp down in Huntsville, Texas, down there where they had the prison rodeo, they left me in camp. And then I get a letter saying, join me in Albuquerque. Because they couldn't send me back because I had such a good year, they didn't know what to do with me. And so when I joined them in Albuquerque, Mexico, and I believe I met the blues singer, Wyona Harris. If y'all remember, Everybody's Rocking Tonight, that's going to be, y'all remember that? Ain't nobody in here remember that. And so I went on to Denver and divided first base, pinch hitting, and playing first base when they needed me. And I hit 358. That's the way I got in AAA. So you see, I'm having a whole lot of greatest moments. And then when I got to Richmond, I was the first black to play AAA ball in Richmond. And that's in the International League, and that's how I was teasing Mr. Garcia last night, because Havana was in that league, in the International League. And when I was a little boy, my mother and Dad took me to the Hippodrome to see Cab Calloway. And I didn't pay any attention, so we playing a ball game in Havana, and he saw, I guess I was sitting in the dugout alone, and he came down and said hello and shook my hand. Guess who it was? Cab Calloway. So I went on. See all this. See, it's hard for me to tell you the greatest.
Well, and your biggest disappointment?
not getting a cup of coffee in the major league. Everybody else did. But I understand why. There were only 8 teams in each league. There was a quota system. And every team that I played for, I was owned by them. They had to sell me to a major league. But it wasn't until 1958 when they demoted me again and sent me to Sally League. And
You went to Macon.
yeah, Macon. That was a Dodger farm. And Frisco Thompson said, because I spring trained with Spokane, Washington. That was AAA. We're going to give you the same salary if you send to Macon. I said, my daddy always taught me to keep your salary fair in your pocket in case something happens, and keep it first class. And Frisco said, you mean that you going home and you ain't drawing the first salary? I said, yeah. I said, book me a flight on the plane. And that surprised him because my dad always told me, go first class. And when I got home, he got on, boy, what are you doing? And so it wasn't but a little bit later, and I heard the general manager called and say, when you coming down here? I said, I'm not coming. He said, why? He said, we're going to give you the same salary with Spokane. I said, it was the principle of the thing. You should have told me that at first because, I could picture trying to get back up the ladder. And so he said, what'd it take for you to come down here? And I don't know if they ever done that for a ball player. I told him, I said, you're going to have, you pay my expenses at home, on the road, pay my expenses at home. And he said, come on, so I had to go. And that's when I won my first silver glove. I hit .305 and won my first silver glove.
Okay, Mr. Pardue, Mr. Taylor.
Well, my most famous point in my life is when my grandmother, in about 1938, and I was 8 years old, bought me my first glove. And it was from Monkey Ward, and it was a Peanuts Lowry model. And amazingly, I still have that glove. And I look at that thing quite often, and I say, how in the hell did you ever catch me with that thing? Because all it is a piece of leather, and everybody that ever had one of those gloves knows because you had to get your palm of your hand really tough, or otherwise you got bumps all over it. But anyway, that was really important to me, and I don't know if I ever told my grandmother how much I appreciated that, but she should have known because my first experience in any organized baseball was when I was a freshman in high school, and that was another exciting time. And of course, I relate that only to emphasize that you don't have to start early to become a pro baseball player. And I think the youth of today are really, don't anybody shoot me on this, but I have to tell it. I really think they're starting too early in an organized sport. And fifth graders are running out, sticking it on a tee, which is fine. They could do it in the backyard. They're not going to hit it very far to start with. So why do they have to be in an organized ball with somebody saying, go play this? I've seen them say, go play second base, and the little kid runs and stands on second base, which is probably what I would do too. So my point is that it can be done without the glamorized play that little ones have to. And I know the parents like it because it gets rid of them for a while. But I really think they could wait later and grow a little bit as a youth. And of course, the most disappointing time was I always thought I could be a major leaguer, and I did for a long time. But then I started putting 2 and 2 together and decided I had a few deficiencies that wouldn't allow me to go to the major leagues. And so I told, who was it? I can't even think of the owner of the Yankees now. He's still the owner of the Yankees. Steinbrenner. Thank you. Butch. But he was our speaker at our old timers banquet one year, and I got an award for the Vol of the Year or something. And I told him, I said, my major leagues was the Southern Association. That's as far as I went. I went spring training with Cincinnati one year, but I told him that that was my major leagues, and that's about the way I felt about it.
Okay.
But it was an enjoyable run.
All right. Mr. Bunch, your greatest moment and your biggest disappointment.
My biggest
People in the back want to make sure
my
they hear you.
biggest disappointment was going to Korea. I got a letter from Uncle Sam. I was headed to spring training, but I ended up in
What year was
Korea.
that?
1950. One of the first outfits in there. I never thought I'd get out, but I did. But baseball is the greatest sport on earth. Every town or city, country or what, got a baseball field. If it ain't, they playing in the street, in the backyard. These others, you got one football game a week, 3 basketball game a week, volley, hockey. Baseball is played every day, and every park got 34 to 50,000. It's got to be the greatest sport. But just like he was saying about old Sufferdale, I love it. The worst whooping I ever got, I slipped off from Sunday school, went down Sufferdale to run them foul balls. And my mama come down there with a belt. And all the boys laughed at me. I didn't go back. That was it.
Mr. McBride, you have
Roy Perdue was talking about picking that stuff, throwing the ball to him. That's the difference in experience. We had an old left-hander named Joe Marino. He had the bases full, and the coach said, third base said, Joe fumbled the ball. Joe called timeout. He walked over about 4 or 5 steps and drilled him right between the shoulders with it. So that's the difference in experience.
Yeah, but he was right-handed though, right?
But no, he was left-handed.
Well, I thought that sounded like a right-handed story.
I agree with Taylor about that's what happened to the black kid. There's no free play for the kids to play. You go on picnics, the whole family would get out there and play ball. The free play is what happened in the inner city, where it's easy to put up basketball courts and tennis courts because take up no room. And we went out to Greer Stadium when Smitho had it and had an autograph show. And this is before they put all that stuff they got out there now, the tents and they had basketball courts right there. I left early. I started going down that third baseline. I looked over and I saw 4 black kids over shooting basketball and the baseball game going on. And before I got down to the bottom of the thing, there was 2 white kids there taking batting practice in the ballpark. Now, what did that tell you?
Yeah.
It's exposure. But I didn't have that. You go in the barbershop, somebody was always pushing me. These kids don't have nobody to push them.
Okay.
What Butch is talking about. Kids, it's no more fun than coaching a bunch of kids. And I remember when I was coaching in the Gilbert League, the finest days I had these boys out there playing ball, 18, 22-year-old kids, and listen to everything you tell them. We went up on it to see the families and the kids. It's just a thrill that if you don't get in baseball. And we have the old timers every year. We honor a lot of kids. But you never see a black boy walk up there and get an award. And I told Butch, I said, Butch, this is your fault. I said, you did not get out there and work with those kids. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So Ricky Whittemore has started an RBI league, and he's doing a wonderful job with these kids. And getting Butch and these old ball players to get out there and help these kids. He can do the same thing that Charles Davis is doing in this town, but he needs exposure and he needs help and things like that. And for disappointment, when they tore the Dell down, I was down with Johnny Beasley when they tore it down and put the thing up. I've often wondered if we could have saved the Dell, turned it over to the state park, the Metro Park Board, and still had it for kids to play ball. You could have art concerts and things. And still today with the ball down there, the Centennial Ball, this would have been right beside of it, the oldest ballpark. It was still used, you know, and not to make money on it. I was disappointed when I seen that happen.
Okay. Lady, the blue dress, how about your name and tell
Helen Pennington from Rockville, Tennessee, and Rutherford County.
okay, how'd you get here today?
Well, I drove down.
All right.
My daughter's Linda Center.
Oh, okay.
I'm proud of her with this project. This is great. My father was an umpire in our community. We had several baseball leagues, and he umpired from behind the pitcher. And I would like to know what year the umpire was moved to behind the plate.
All right.
Professional baseball, it's always been behind, way back, before I remember, in professional ball. I don't know about amateur ball like that, but professional ball, as far as I can remember, it's always been behind home plate.
So
And,
professional ball's always been behind home plate.
as far as I remember, professional ball.
Well, I didn't see them growing up, so we didn't have television, you know, back then, so I didn't know that they had always been.
Southern League used to have an old umpire named Steamboat Johnson. And he was so loud, when he called that first strike, you could hear him up at fifth and Dedrick when he hollered.
Okay.
Let me ask
Miss-
Ms. Clayton something.
Miss,
You remember Herman Griswold?
Yes, very well.
Were you up there sitting there?
I was.
And you remember when they turned the scores by hand out there with the scores? See, I'm old, but I'm not that old. But
But I can remember a lot of that.
And lady, what
It's-
she was talking about, it's in the book, and it's in that book, it's baseball 100 years, goes back in the 1800s. At first, they stood out behind the pitcher like she's talking about. Then later on, they had 3 leagues. They had, let's see, it was a National League, American League, and they named this other league, I forget what it was. But then he moved to a spot behind the catcher, not up real close. Then, after so many years, they got to putting equipment on and moved up behind the catcher. But when they first started out, I just read that a couple of days ago in a
Okay.
book.
okay, your
I
name
have a
and
question, Bill's man. I have a
where are
question.
you from?
Originally from Nashville, live in Nashville City now. I have a question for Ms. Clayton. When I was a kid, and used to go to the Dale every Saturday, they had Kids Day, and they roped off the right field section for kids that got in free. And that was during your father's administration also.
I used to
You know
go.
whatever happened to that tradition, because I think that something like that would certainly create interest in kids. The panelists talked about kids and lack of interest in
Yeah.
baseball, but in those days, there weren't the little leagues, the children leagues, such as that.
This was all they had to see.
The
were
kids went down there
this.
and sat on right field. Do
Oh,
you know
they
whatever
did.
happened to that tradition?
No, I don't have any
In
idea.
left field too.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
you see what you just said? I was there, but you didn't see me. I was out there in them left field bleachers.
I have some questions for you.
Hey, but where I used to live when I was talking about the plantation, no, we stayed on the place because the man had a Harris Davis, owned the Harris Davis dry goods, and he asked my dad would we live with him, and we lived on the second floor, and that house took up about a third of. It'd probably be in the Titans parking lot where I live, 220 bucks. I could walk down.
I was at 221 Woodland and 224 Silver.
So we were close. You might have been the one I knocked off. You might have been the one I knocked off that bicycle that time.
Larry Cole, who is former baseball player, coaches a lot, loves baseball, remember the old timers, good here in Nashville, that's a question.
Yeah, the way I know when they were talking about the Dale, we got a chance to play down there when I was in summer ball. And I know about that right field, and it looks great, but I ran off that field and missed too many balls, so I know about the right field. But this question is to Mr. McCoy. You know, back in the 60s when I was at Tennessee State, one of the requirements was to play summer ball. And in our summer league, the majority of the teams had Negro ball players on their team. So do you have an idea?
You talking about well, not the city league.
Capital City League. We played the Capital City League at Hadley Park.
Right,
In the 60s.
right.
Majority of those teams had Negro League ball players on
Mm-hmm.
it. Do you have any idea how many ball players from Nashville played in the old and the new Negro League?
Well, I know what it did when they, Smitho and I argue all the time over about when they closed Hadley Park. But I always put the question to him, how many black ball players trained at Hadley Park for the Negro League? He hadn't thought of that. Do you understand what I'm saying? All these black ball players, that's where they got their training to go to the Negro League. Everybody played in Hadley Park. And just like for television and all that, they used to have movies at Hadley Park, and everybody went on Wednesday, and it'd be crowded out there. But when they closed Hadley Park, look at the problems you created. You created drugs, people having drugs in there. The senior citizens used to go over there and watch the ball game. We created a whole lot of problems that shouldn't have happened. Us.
Yeah. And Butch is, well, I guess the city, Butch is talking, if you go look at Hadley Park today, Tennessee State just plays baseball games down there, as well as some summer league games were played there. And then the city decided to put more tennis courts there. And Tennessee State's baseball.
Well, that was
field
Mr.
moved.
Watkins' fault. That's a good buddy of mine, but he used to cry because we hit balls on his tennis court, so I don't know where I was. But we let them close that ball, and we went down ever since. That's when black
Right.
disappeared.
Okay, Mr.
Right.
Trump.
I can help the lady with a story about an umpire, about the situation with umpiring. But first, I want to read you something I found. This is actually was printed in the Tennessean on March 29th, 1919, and this is the truth. It says some rules. It was just a little ad in the sports page. Some rules. The following rules and regulations were adopted unanimously at the powder plant yesterday governing players in the Old Hickory Baseball League. No crap games will be allowed while the games are in action. No bracelet watches shall be worn by any of the players, and all players shall be required to take at least one bath at the beginning of the season and one at the close. And
Remember, you're going to have to get that on your website.
And let me tell you this.
but I want to tell you about the umpire. In 1867, there was an incident. There was they would play like the amateur teams would play for the Davidson County Championship. And in 1867, you see, there was the Nashville club played the Phoenix club. They played a 2 out of 3 series, and they played it in September. The Nashville club tied the series at 1 game apiece with a 58-29 victory in Game 2. I couldn't find the box score of the final one, but this letters tell you probably who won the game. What had happened? There was a fan who was at the third game, and he was very disgusted at the umpiring, and he sent an editorial letter to the Republican Banner, a prominent newspaper at that time. And this is in 1867. He signed the letter, Mr. A. Ball, and this is what he wrote. This is the letter that was published in the Republican Banner. A match game was played Tuesday between the Nashville and Phoenix baseball clubs, which was witnessed by a large number of spectators. With but little satisfaction, however, quite a discussion was held between friends of both clubs. It was generally agreed that there was an unfairness exhibited on the part of the umpire, Mr. William Buck. The following items by a spectator will prove the above. Mr. F. Gott of Phoenix was on first base and endeavored to make the second. He passed the second, during which a foul was called. Instead of returning to second base and touching it, he crossed the diamond and reached first base, thus violating the 23rd section of the rules and regulations of the National Association of Baseball Clubs. Parsley was exhibited throughout the entire game, and everything went in favor of the Phoenix. It was not thought by the spectators that the game would be claimed by Captain Sullivan, but in this they agreed was grossly deceived. Captain Sullivan himself admitted that there was an unfairness and partiality on part of the umpire. Now, Captain Sullivan, he was the vice president and a player and the captain of the Phoenix Club. And so Mr. Sullivan, he must have been a subscriber to the Republican Banner because he wrote a rebuttal letter, which was in the next edition of the Republican Banner. He said, "The communication published in your paper yesterday over the signature of A. Ball was partial. Although claimed to have been written by a spectator, I think it owes to the paternity to some member of the Nashville Club or to a zealous partisan. The first statement that it was generally agreed that there was unfairness exhibited on the part of the umpire will no doubt astonish a large majority of the spectators as it does for me. The idea must have originated in the fertile imagination of A. Ball, as I have never heard of it mentioned except by some member of the club and those interested," he writes. In justice to Mr. Buck, I would state that no umpire had been selected previous to the hour for playing, and in the name of all, it is reasonable, why not the Nashville Club, object of the gentleman, instead of accusing him of partiality at its close. In conclusion, permit me to say on behalf of the Phoenix that it is our aim to promote cultivation of kindly feelings among the different baseball clubs, that we fairly won the championship of Davidson County and have the champion bat in our possession and intend to retain it until vanquished in a square stand-up fight in an open field, when we will yield it cheerfully and gracefully, but never through a newspaper controversy.
I think Pat Nolan has a question.
I have two questions. First, for Ms. Clayton, could you talk a little bit about Larry Gilbert, who I think most people would say was the greatest manager that the Nashville Walls had during their period in the 40s, particularly what your dad might have done to get him to come up here from New Orleans.
Okay, let me,
The panel in general, what are your thoughts about a new baseball stadium in Nashville? Should it be downtown? Should it be at Sulphur? Should it stay at Greer?
okay, let me start off with this tribute that was written to my grandfather. And it said it was Fay Murray who achieved the impossible in luring Larry Gilbert away from New Orleans to Nashville in one of the master strokes of minor league baseball operation. Larry Gilbert was absolutely the material, I guess, that made the team flow. Here's another one by some noted author. Larry is recognized as one of the greatest handlers of men ever known to competitive athletics. What gives him an edge is his own simple honesty and innate righteousness.
May I say something about Larry Gilbert?
Yes.
Larry Gilbert could take the most dissipating ball players, and win championships with them. I mean, drinkers. He could make them play. He knew how to handle men.
Right.
He was the greatest manager in Nashville of all
He
the land.
was. And many of my notes go on to explain what you said, that he would allow them to have a beer, a drink if they wanted to. They could play cards if they wanted to. They could stay out late if they wanted to. But they had to show up for that game in tip-top shape
That's right.
and go out there and play that game and win it. That's what he was all about.
I played with his sons, Tookie and them.
Tookie, do you remember
Yes,
Tookie was the bat boy
I'm
for so
telling you,
long, and then
Mr.
he
Gilbert
grew up?
treated us just the same as he did him.
Uh-huh.
He'd let us get out there and run fly
Oh, I
ball.
know, yeah.
When they got ready to start the game, he might give us a dime and get a box of popcorn.
Oh, I know.
But Mr. Gilbert was the greatest.
He
in
was.
mine,
He
know.
was. He was,
Tell
absolutely.
anybody.
Let me raise a question. Butch McCarty has talked about it some, about baseball used to be talked about in all barbershops in different places. And he doesn't think that in black barbershops or in different places we talk about baseball as much these days. And some of you all are a little older than I am. Did you think, Mr. Taylor, that you'd ever see integrated baseball? I was looking at the Boys of Summer last week, and Pee Wee Reese said he was on a ship coming back from the war when he was told that the Dodgers had signed Jackie Robinson. And said at first they didn't believe it. He didn't believe it. But then somebody else came and said, well, they've signed a shortstop. And he said, well, dog, that's my position. I better pay a little attention. Did you ever think that you would see integrated baseball and Mr. Bunch, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Pardue, Mr. Zapp, Butch. And I know you talk about Jackie Robinson, that's when you went, but
Yes,
Mr. Bunch?
I always thought it would come around. Excuse me, because we had a white boy playing with us. He was a police chief, Joe Casey. He was the only white on the field. And I figured then that it was going to get better one day. But Joe played with us. And it wasn't no different. Wherever we went, Joe went.
was this just in the Sandlot?
In the city league. That was before I went to the mound. Joe Casey was a good ball player. He's a better ball player than he was a police chief.
For the record, he says. All right. Mr. Taylor?
Well, I had no.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in rural North Carolina, right in the middle of the state, on a farm. But I never saw many black players back in the 30s and early 40s. They had their own school, and I mean that's just the way it was. And I never knew that they played ball or not, really. And of course, it's not amazing that they're getting the opportunity and they're making the most of it. And it should have happened a long time before, I'm sure. But that's the way it was where I grew up, anyway.
Butch, your short answer?
Well, but see, I came through there. That's the reason I have so much talk, and I never get my point over. That's the reason I'm talking so much. Now, I want you to understand. Just like I think that Clark Griffin should integrate the league long before Branch Rickey did, because he had one of the best teams in the world that played there when his Washington Senators were. He had Josh Gibson. He had Buck Leonard, the Black Lou Gehrig. He had all those guys playing there. But the black team was drawing just as much as his Washington Senators, so why should I do this and lose this money? Josh Gibson it was 407 feet to left field in Griffith Stadium. Josh Gibson hit more home runs playing part-time there than the whole American League did. And that's the truth. I mean, these like a lot of things like Cool Papa Bell turned the light out and got in bed before the light went off. But that did happen. But I ain't got time to tell you how that happened. But that did happen. He got into bed before the light. That was a shortage in the light, and Satchel was up there, and he brought Satchel up and said, "Let me." I can get in that bed. He said, "You fast, but you ain't that fast. You just watch me." He turned the light, and the light didn't go, and he jumped in the bed. He said, "Lord, you are fast. Let's get the rest of these ball players up here and make some money."
Who was that guy, Butch? What was the guy's name?
Cool Papa Bell.
Who?
Cool Papa Bell.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that story where they said in the book,
Yeah.
He turned off a light and he said he
Yeah,
got in the bed before the light went out.
But Joe Black actually explained that.
Yeah.
He said there was a shortage, and it actually happened. But they stretched the thing.
I wouldn't have to worry about that.
But just like if you wasn't there, just like whites would say they understand. No, you can't understand. Just like it was a white water fountain here and a water fountain here, and one says color and one says black, and then they're both coming out the same. And you drinking water over here, and you drinking water over there. And then now on the farm, anybody remember Dipper? Yeah. Everybody out there was drinking water together out of the bucket. But in the city, and most of your cooks and everything was black. And if you didn't want nobody around, you didn't want nobody messing with your food.
I think we got about 10 minutes.
I know.
And we didn't answer the Panhandle second part of the question, so I'll drop mine. But go ahead, Mr. Zapp.
I just want to say this. I may have went to the major leagues, and I may not. But the old timers used to say that I was probably the greatest long ball hitter that ever come out of Nashville. But only way I didn't advance far was me. I didn't have no sense, you know. I would take very little off the owners. I'd quit and pout, you know. because I figured I was good enough to go to another ball team if I wanted to, you know. So why I didn't advance farther in baseball, it was me, not my color. When I went to Texas, by my name, they advertised Zap. All the people out there thought I was a Cuban. But when I got out there and they found out I was American, Afro-American, the stands were full every night. So
Ms. Porter, you want to
mine was right here.
That's that.
Well, I'm kind of like Jim. I played on ball clubs that I would be for a little while, maybe a couple of weeks. I was at Havana in that International League. So it was not all that many white people on that ball club. But, they treated me real nice. And like Butch was saying, I don't think the ball players cared what color you was. If you got up there, me being a pitcher, if a guy got up there and he was purple and he hit that ball out and I won a ball game, I went over and shook his hand, told him how much I appreciated it. So I think that more than likely that it was somebody else that was causing all this other than the white ball players versus the black guys. I don't think that was a conflict.
Like you talking about Havana, when I was playing with Richmond, and when Havana would come to Richmond, they had more black, because most of the teammates looked like me. So they all stayed. They had 2 white players to stay in the white hotel, and the rest of them stayed in the black hotel. And I know who stayed in the white hotel: Clint Hartong and Johnny Lippard. You know Clint Hartong.
Pat, repeat your second question.
Talk about Nashville building a new ballpark. And I guess a couple questions. Should they do that, and where should it be?
Downtown.
Downtown, where they want to put it on thermal site.
Let's take a
Thoughts
vote.
about that as former players? Or?
Put it
And we'll go
downtown.
down the whole panel real quickly.
Let's take a
So,
vote,
Charles,
see who
okay.
wants it downtown. Downtown.
Okay, how many of you want it downtown? Anybody disagrees where it should be?
My personal belief, I don't think baseball will ever go over Nashville.
No.
It's strictly a football city and that's it. I don't don't care where they build the ballpark. I don't think it will ever go over. Huh?
We talking about sound.
Sounds
That's what I'm talking about, sound ballpark. I don't think baseball will ever go over Nashville. It's strictly a football town.
Okay, Mr. Pardue?
Really, I think if you get right down to it, I think it should put it over there by the stadium where they can have the parking facilities when they're not playing football. Use the diamond as, baseball, everybody can park. Because, like talking about Sufferdale before, I know, you had a hard time finding enough parking places and you didn't hardly have that many people that were down there either,
Okay. Okay, Ms. Clayton? Ms. Taylor has to catch a flight.
I kind of agree that possibly it should be around the Titans. Surroundings, I also agree, I'm not sure that baseball would ever catch again in Nashville.
Why not?
I think we're all tied up in Titans. I think if Nashville could come in here with a real hot dog team, Nashville likes winners.
That's right.
And, when you bring in something halfway, it's not gonna cut it, from my experience now. I just don't think it would catch on again.
Okay, Mr. McBride?
Well, I remember baseball myself, and when baseball died. Larry Smith'll come to town. You gotta promote, you gotta sell. He built a park, he gotta promote it. He has these churches coming every week, and he has something down there, he has clowns on the field, you gotta promote what you're selling.
Yeah.
And I believe if you build a ballpark in there, when it promotes the way Smith'll promote it, you can draw 400,000 or 500,000 people in there if you promote it. But you have to have people, they go down that ball game, like Butch said, they don't care who's at bat or what, they're running all over the field, but you can get the people in the ballpark.
Okay.
It doesn't matter with me where they build it. If we can get this media, stop talking about the Titans. When they quit playing football, I want to hear baseball. Channel 17 will give you the score of the sound. I talked with Mark and I found out he said he loved baseball, but we talking about Eddie George, McNair. The game is over. It's over. We want to play summer sports. If you ain't out there on the golf course, let's play some baseball.
All right. Let's have one last question, and someone in the audience would like to ask. Your name, please. Where are you from?
My name's Jim Hicks. I'm here in Nashville. I just wondered down in the old Sulphurdale, did they ever save a marker or place a marker? There is a marker
Where?
Where is the marker?
It's on Fourth Avenue. There's a Tennessee historical marker there at Fourth Avenue.
Yeah.
Still there
There is a
today.
marker.
Where the old ballpark right on Fourth Avenue, where the old spur track went by.
Look over here, Mr. Clayton got it.
Let's see.
Here's a
I
marker.
was down there when they dedicated it.
Yeah.
I understand we have time for a couple more questions.
To admit you, I was not.
Can I say something, Dwight, about
Yes.
about Pat's question?
Oh,
Pat, it's a different day. The sentimental favorite is Sulphurdale for me and for many other Nashvillians. It's more commercial now than it used to be. There's more competition. There are more things for families to do. Personally, I think this is a better baseball town than it is football, hockey, and any other sport put together.
Right.
But you're not comparing apples to apples. We're not talking about a Major League Baseball team here. You know, baseball is all to me, and I support the other sports franchises are in town, support the Sounds as well. But the thing that we have to be careful of is we're never going to bring Sulphurdale back. You can have a ballpark in that location, but the smell and the sounds and the hill and all the things that are tied into that old famous place, they're not coming back. And that's one of the things that I'm passionate about keeping that website available. The other thing I'd like to say is, being a different day and a different time, folks that kept that alive were people like Grantland Rice, Fred Russell, F.M. Williams, Edgar Allan, that told that story in a different, they told the story in a different way that's not there today. And part of it is the competition for space in the paper. But that has an awful lot to do with it this day. But the promotion that Junie's talking about. That's part of that today, the commercialism of it. The passion is still there for you guys like you and I, and ladies like you and I, that want to go down there and watch a ball game, that want to sit there and do the things that Butch is talking about. I'm not sure whether they put the umpire behind the home plate or behind the pitcher's mound. I think they're all still blind. I don't think that improved things one bit. But that's how I feel about the game when you go to a Sounds game.
Okay, Seth Alexander.
The silver swing, I'd like to hear them kind of explain what exactly that was with the short right.
Sulphur swing.
Sulphur spring. It's still under.
The spring.
Yes, man. It's
Swing.
still under.
Swing, you said swing.
Swing for right field.
Yes, for right field.
Swing for right field.
Swing.
Swing. Sulphur swing.
But I was left-handed. I didn't have to do nothing to get the bat on the ball.
Right.
I
It
didn't
was
have
a
to hide
bad
the swing.
thing for the person to play in the in that ballpark, because you get that right field swing, and then when you go to the other ballparks, a can of corn is nowhere, because you get that to go over that swing. And I'm glad it never happened to me, because I was a line drive hitter, and I hit many triples as I did home runs.
And you could catch the line drive, bounce off the fence. That's
Right.
where I played. The only place I played right field was Sulphurdale. Played center field.
One story on Josh Gibson. I saw him play a ball game in Sulphurdale back in the 30s. Central Page pitch, he was catching. He hit 2 balls over the left center field fence in one ball game. And I never seen him 3 or 4 hit over there in the entire life of the deal. But on his breast protector, Josh Gibson was not a real good catcher. He was a wood man. He wasn't a leather man. But on the front of his breast protector, he had wrote up, "Thou shalt not steal."
Yeah.
That was painted on his breast protector.
And he hit
"Thou
with a
shalt
little
not
bitty
steal."
bat, about
Yeah.
this long. Throw him a curveball, he tell the catcher, let it alone.
He could hit the ball
out of
as
there.
far as anybody.
You could
Anybody
hit
know
it.
what a Bible hitter is? A Bible hitter. He brought it up when he talking about thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
Watch all your Latin ball players and watch me. That's what I was. Thou shalt not pass.
Then we had a catcher come here and play. He played with us with Birmingham. He sat on a rocking chair and catch. They called him Rocking Chair Pepper Bassett. He throw you out going to second, the pitcher have to duck. So, Sufferdale is a great
Phil Lawrence
remember.
has a question. We'll make it our last question for the day.
Not exactly, but I just got a
Comment?
These quick comments. When we had the Nashville Vols here, right at Sufferdale, we didn't have the competition with a major league team like we do now with the Predators
Right.
and the Titans. They're major league in their sport, and we
Right.
didn't have that. When the Vols were here, they were kings. We can be that still. We can be, we don't have the market in Middle Tennessee to have a major league team. We can't have 80 games in here. We can't do that, but we can be great in minor league baseball from April through August. We can still be kings. We can build that stadium down where they're talking about it now at the thermal plant. We'll be sitting right in between two bridges, the pedestrian bridge and the new Gateway Bridge. Can you imagine driving over that bridge? Let me stop right there. I remember my dad taking me to Sufferdale when I was 10 years old. We'd go down, I guess, what is it, 5th? And they'd pull those gates back. Bill, remember when they'd pull those gates back?
Yeah.
And I'd look inside there and I could see that green grass. I couldn't all wait to get in there. I had to get in there. And can you imagine now, somebody driving over that bridge and their little boy sitting in the back, and for just a couple of seconds, he'll be able to look inside that stadium and see that green grass, that big cathedral that you were talking about, Dwight, that book. You can look in there and see it. I think that's the greatest place. You'll be able to stand on the pedestrian bridge without even going in. You can be able to stand there and watch. But I think baseball is alive and well in Nashville. I was Saturday night, a week ago, I was there. 1 week ago, Friday night a week ago, I was there. There were 10,000 people there. It was like an honest count to me. They were there. And it's here. And people like us have got to get the word out and spread the word. And it is, Sidney Bunch, I agree with you, it's the greatest sport in the world.
That's
baseball.
right.
And I tell you one thing, if you don't have a pro team, I tell you one thing, I think we got the greatest amateur system in here. Look how many teams we sent to World Series. And look at Vanderbilt right now. If you don't have a pro team, you can watch your amateur ball go down because they have nothing to look up to.
I just want to say, I very much appreciate having been asked to take part in today's event. And I think we all need to tell our stories. I've taken a mic over to Butch's house in the past and sat down with him and have him on tape. Because sometimes, you know, maybe my grandchildren or their children, they may not get a chance to meet Butch McCord or Mrs. Clayton or Roy Pardue or Mr. Bunch or Mr. McBride or Mrs. Zapp. But we can tell stories about them, and then they can go to the library or places. You know, we want to thank people like Seth Alexander, Miss Center, for, you know, they can go to the library and listen for themselves, and even maybe catch this on video. So it's just good for us to tell our stories. And so I'm really honored to have been invited to take part, and I want to thank all the panel members for coming together. Just a few months ago, when they had the Tennessee State Hall of Fame banquet downtown at the convention center.
Yeah.
There was Mr. Bunch, Mr. McCord, Mrs. Zapp, and Sue Bridgeforth, who's not here today, but he formerly owned the Birmingham Black Barons.
Yeah.
You know, that history at one table, they were all sitting together. So, you know, maybe you might not see that ever again. You may not see this group ever together again. So I'm really glad that the library, the Archive Center here, glad you put this program on. And I hope we get the chance to see more of it. And for those of you who are here who may not have met any of these people personally, go up and get their phone numbers and talk to them. And I'm sure they'll be willing to stay here as long as you want to talk. Thanks very much.
This has been really great, and I appreciate everyone coming. I appreciate the panelists being here. Thank all of you for doing this. Thank Dwight for moderating it. It really turned out great. I was really pleased. We've got some great stories here. This will be wonderful for the archives to keep. We will try to get copies, so if you're interested and you'd like to have a copy, let us know. Just a couple of things. The exhibit, this kicks it off. So actually, this is the first pitch. I keep doing that. This is the first pitch. So look at the exhibit here. It's in the hallways over the conference room over there. There is some food over there. Make yourselves to home. Look at the exhibit. Skip brought in some benches. Please don't sit in them, but they're great. There are benches out of Sufferdale, so take a look at them while you're over there. There's some really outstanding artifacts and some photographs on the walls here. And I'm really pleased that this exhibit has turned out so well. I also want to, we had if you got your ticket with you, I'll make this quick, this little ticket, on the back of it, we've got our door prize going, everybody got a ticket. Debbie Cox is on our staff, this is her birthday, so if you win this door prize, give it to her. And, I know Theo, so you can pick one, Theo. If you get your own, you gotta turn it back.
000172.
172.
That's you.
I got 75.
Yeah, unfortunately, you got a bunch of. I think we overbooked.
There it is. Yo, what did you say? What did you say a while ago?
172, 172.
We got 102. You right there?
It's gotta be here.
160.
What's
The lottery. 119.
Ah, there it is. Sweating it out a little bit. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.